And so when I read Deadly Occupant, oh my god, because it's about nice ghosts. These ghosts are not mean. Reading and being like, oh my gosh, that was true. Like, it wasn't, what? I did not see that coming. It wasn't like that at all. It means that they are meant to die right now and she needs to kill them. Let's talk about some books that almost gave me nightmares at night. Hello my darlings, welcome back to my channel. My name is Desiree. I am so happy to have you here. This is Rainy Days Library, a place where I basically just treat the entire platform as my digital diary. I just really like to talk about books and life and studying and cooking and mental health and travel and basically anything you can possibly think of. I started my accounts back in 2021, grew an amazing community that I would not be who I am today without, and so I'm just here talking about my books and my life and sharing every little moment with you. For today's video, I thought we could talk about some ghoulish books that I've read recently that I think you might enjoy. So for context, I'm not really someone who reads a lot of horror, and two of these are considered horror books, and I didn't really know it until I read them. So it's kind of something I would have avoided normally, but I'm glad I didn't. When I started these accounts, I was very much sticking strictly to romance because that's what I was most comfortable with, and then I eventually started, dabbling into different genres, and so now I've become more comfortable with reading outside of my comfort zone willingly and purposefully. So I kind of read a little bit of everything, but one genre that I had yet to explore because it terrified me was horror. And so when I read Deadly Occupant, oh my god. And so when I read Deadly Occupant by Mads Raferty, I was both thrilled and terrified. So the main reason why I got this is because I somehow ended up on the author's page on Instagram and saw that she was pitching her book as similar to Pretty Little Liars, a show that I absolutely loved and was completely obsessed with in high school. So Pretty Little Liars obviously has some horror aspect to it, but it's not supernatural. It's more like mystery thriller-esque. So that's what I was expecting to happen in here. I didn't think there would actually be a real supernatural being causing the events happening in this house. I was wrong. So I was addicted to keep on, flipping the pages, and I was reading this in bed before going to sleep, and it was not the wisest of decisions, but it was the kind of book that I just couldn't put down. And while I didn't rate it 5 stars because it did feel kind of, I don't really know how to put it. I guess the quality of it felt like that kind of comfort TV show, but it wasn't anything out of this world, but I could not stop flipping the pages. Do you get what I mean? I've been spending a lot of time figuring out what my rating system is over these past 3-ish years that I've been doing this, and I have come to the conclusion that 4 stars usually means that I loved the book, but it wasn't life-changing, or it's not a book that I'm necessarily going to remember forever, I guess we could say. It's kind of in that in-between of a book I just read and I'm gonna forget about it, and a book that I will remember, but it's not life-altering, if that makes sense. So Deadly Occupant follows these 4 girls that all live in the same house together for college. They are absolute best friends, and there is Blair, Phoebe, Violet, and Evie. That is the name of the 4 girls. Blair is the FMC that we follow throughout the story. Evie is obsessed with paranormal things. She loves horror movies. That is her, that's her setting. The other girls, not as much. But to make her happy, on Halloween, they go and visit this super known haunted house together. And when they get there, there's a tourist guide and everything, and they turn on their devices and they start seeing that there is a supernatural presence in the house, and they start hearing a voice that is calling out for Blair. And so they see that the most haunted place is up in the attic, and so Blair goes up the attic and something happens. She goes there with Evie just to not be alone, and she witnesses what happens to Blair, and they don't talk about it for the first little section of the book, and then eventually you'll see a little bit more about what happened. But you do see at the beginning that Blair was slashed against her abdomen, so they couldn't see anything. There was a box that started moving abruptly, and she just heard a voice, and then she was slashed by some kind of weird being. And so they get out of there, they go back home, and that is where they realize that the ghost of that haunted house followed them to theirs. So basically the entire book follows the four of them trying to get rid of this spirit that's haunting their house. Lights turn on and off, the TV turns on and off, doors close and open, stuff goes missing, and it even goes to the point of them hearing someone running through the house. And at one point an invisible presence actually like touches them. So it was horrifying for me as someone who does not deal with this stuff. This definitely spooked the hell out of me. I could not get enough of it. It has a romance subplot. I did really like the relationship of the four girls. It was very much Pretty Little Liars coded, and so I liked that element. I also think it was a good introduction to the genre. After that, I read The Library of Shadows by Rachel Moore, which this is far, far, far lighter than Deadly Occupant because it's about nice ghosts. These ghosts are not mean. So it follows Estee, I think that's how you say her name. She gets accepted into Radcliffe Heights, which is like this super prestigious high school for students who are looking to go to like Ivy League colleges. And that's where her dad used to study, and her dad just passed away, so she's looking for ways to get closer to him. And since he passed away, her mom has been kind of all over the place. They'd been living from state to state for the past few years, and so when she gets accepted, she's really looking forward to going there and having some sort of stability. What she doesn't know yet is that the place is haunted. So the second she gets there, a bunch of clues start appearing from stuff that her dad had left her up to like stuff in the actual archives. She meets a very handsome boy who gets her in a really sticky, terrible situation. And so a few moments pass and she realizes that the handsome boy she met, Mateo, is a ghost. So basically what's been happening at Radcliffe Heights is that every 10 years there's a student that disappears and they don't really know what happens, how they disappeared. Thing is, there's some kind of being at Radcliffe Heights that is feeding off students every 10 years to keep themselves powerful and like control these three ghoulish creatures to like do the dirty work for them. And so the ghosts of these students are the ones that were taken by this being. Estee is the one who can help them claim their bodies back. So they're not completely dead. They can still come back, right? But Mateo is basically Edward Cullen at this point. It was a very easy read. It wasn't anything like out of this world, but similarly to like Deadly Occupants, although it's slightly different with how I ended up rating it and everything, it was like a comfort show. It was enthralling, it was interesting, it was captivating, it was really sweet. The romance between Estee and Mateo is one that I really enjoyed, and the found family that Estee eventually gets through these ghosts that she meets and the other characters that she befriends when she gets to the school was really heartwarming. It was just really fun, and honestly, like, yes, okay, there were some pop culture references and stuff like that that got a little bit annoying at times, but that's not gonna make me like completely throw a book out the window, obviously. So I rated this 3.5 stars. Keep in mind though, this is the author's first book. I actually went and got the second, well, they're not interconnected, but this is the author's second book. It doesn't have anything to do with ghosts, but it has to do with a girl who goes to study in Pompeii and she falls in love with a statue who comes to life. So I don't believe they are connected, but I'm very excited to jump into it and see how the author's writing has evolved. But nevertheless, I did really have a lot of fun reading this, and I read it really quickly too. After that, I started reading Phantasma by Kaylie Smith, and I'll be honest, I started reading this and I could not for the life of me get into it. I was tempted to like start a different book multiple times, but the reason why I even got it in the first place is because I kept seeing so many people on Fable talking about Blackwell. I saw so many reviews of people just saying, Blackwell, that's it, that's my review, go read the book. And I was just so curious. I did not know what it was about. I didn't look into what it was about. I just got the book. We went on vacation, my boyfriend and I, for a few days, and I plowed through this thing so quickly. It's basically Hunger Games with ghosts, devils, phantoms, apparitions, all of those types of creatures with some spice. Spice is very, very important in the plot line of this entire thing, and I will say I was slightly disappointed with the ending because it was really really rushed. And I feel like some of the spice scenes in here could have been cut out for the sake of having a more developed ending, or for a more developed ending and more developed plot line overall, because the trials were so interesting. So right at the beginning of the book, Ophelia, who is the FMC, and Genevieve's mother passes away. Their mother was a necromancer, and so the way that things go is that the eldest child is going to take the parents' powers. So Ophelia does that. And in doing so, she obviously gets her mother's magic, and she can see apparitions, ghouls, all of those creatures. She didn't know, however, was that their mother was in severe debt. So Genevieve goes into Phantasma, which is basically like a game where at the end, if you're the last person standing, if you're the winner, you will be able to receive like a granted wish from a devil, so you can ask for anything and they'll grant it. So she went into the game in the hopes of winning and being able to ask to keep their house, something like that. The game of Phantasma is that there are a bunch of trials basically every night. I think there's like 9 levels, something like that. And the charge for the entry is that you have to give them your worst fear. So every trial, there's one big thing you have to conquer, like a massive snake or stuff like that. And the in-between, there's still stuff going on. You're staying in this like massive manor, and you're staying on one specific ground with other players up until you reach level 9, I think. And then you're merged with all the other players. But in the in-between, there are still things happening. So when Ophelia goes in to save her sister, there's gonna be like these weird creatures, like I think they're ghouls. Are those what they are? There's an actual like chart at the beginning. Yeah, the ghouls. So at one point in Ophelia's bedroom, there's a bunch of ghouls just like crawling out of her bathtub, something like that. I can't fully recall, but there's still these types of challenges outside of the actual arena. And so Ophelia meets Blackwell, who is a phantom who's trying to find something to detach himself from Phantasma because he's lost his memories. He's been there for centuries and he doesn't know how to leave because he's lost his memories. So he makes a pact with Ophelia to help her through every single stage of Phantasma to get to the end, and in return she will help him find a heart and a key to get him out. And if she doesn't find that, then she needs to give him 10 years of her life. So they help each other to like achieve the levels every single time. And obviously, I mean, there's immediate tension between the two, so they have a bit of a partners with benefits relationship, and then they gradually start falling in love. And it's written at the front here, the only thing deadlier than losing the game is losing your heart, because if you fall in love in Phantasma, you will be cursed. So Ophelia's kind of in this like really messy situation. There is a plot twist at the end that I found like, it was predictable. I still had fun like reading and being like, oh my gosh, that was true. Like it wasn't, what? I did not see that coming. It wasn't like that at all. It was predictable to me. Doesn't mean it will be for you. And even if it is predictable, it didn't, to me at least, make the book bad. There's still that little bit of intrigue throughout the story to figure out how is Blackwell going to escape. And I thought the spice was well written. Obviously, like they could have skipped some of them, to be fair, to develop a little bit more on other aspects of the book. But I will say the plot, fantastic. I loved it. And I looked forward to seeing what the next trials would be. How would Ophelia get out of it? And how would Blackwell come into like the whole equation? This was a great vacation read. I spent hours reading it by the water. It was great. I had a wonderful time. It was restful and I couldn't put it down. And that's usually what I look for in a book that's around 4 stars. Now I'm cheating a little bit with this next one because I haven't finished it yet, but I desperately need someone to talk to about, so I'm going to talk to myself about it. So this is The 13th Child by Erin Craig. And if you've been here for probably any amount of time, honestly, you will know that Small Favors by Erin is my absolute favorite book of all time. I read it back in 2022 and it just consumed me body and soul, and I love that book so much. And so I was absolutely ecstatic when I heard that Erin was releasing a book that wasn't related to her series A House of Salt and Sorrows. That was like its own standalone book. So this, oh my gosh, is it ever good. It's spectacular. It's like a mix of gothic with a little bit of like romantasy, and I suppose a bit of a mystery element to it, because I do feel like there's a plot twist coming towards the end. I have about 100 or so pages left to read. I think I have 120. I know this is gonna be 5 stars for sure. This is the only reason why I'm including it in this video, because I'm so confident of what I'm going to be rating this. Basically, Hazel is the 13th child of a somewhat poor family. She wasn't supposed to happen, but she did. And so her parents did not want to keep her. And there are these gods in this story. There's the Holy First, the Divided Ones, and the God of Death, who she calls Merrick because he's her godfather, but he has like an actual title that I can't recall right now. Anyways, the Holy First goes to the parents and they say, I will take your child and she will be this, this, this. They deny. Then the Divided Ones come and they say, we'll take her, she will be this, this, this. They deny. And then the God of Death goes to them and says that he will take her and she will become the best healer in the world. They agree. And so Merrick was supposed to come and take her as a babe and, you know, raise her and take her away from her parents so they didn't have to take care of her and, you know, spend money on raising her. He shows up when she's born and then he leaves. So they actually have to raise her up until her 12th birthday. And they were super neglectful. They would forget her birthday. They wouldn't make her cake. They would give the food to the other kids before her. So she really did not have a good childhood. And then when she reaches her 12th birthday, Merrick, the God of Death, comes back for her and brings her along with him because her time has come. So for the first like 2 years of her living with Merrick, although he leaves her alone most of the time, she reads a bunch of books on healing and medicine, and she learns so much, and she then gets pushed into like her first sort of trial, I guess we could say, when she has to heal someone who's dying. And the gift that was put upon her by the God of Death was that by touching a person's cheek, she can see what the cure is to their illness. But the only downside is that she will also see a massive skull, which they call like the death's head, over the person's face when they are meant to die. So the skull doesn't necessarily mean that this sickness is gonna kill them. It means that they are meant to die right now and she needs to kill them. And don't worry, I'm not being like overly spoilery. I'm just giving you sort of like a little bit more than what the synopsis says. But basically the way that lifespans work in this world is that everyone has a candle. And in Merrick's home, the God of Death, he has all of those candles and he can see when it's the time for someone to die, when it isn't. And basically, when Hazel sees the death's head over someone's face, that means that she needs to kill them now, or else their wax from the candle is gonna flow too much and is gonna start affecting the other candles around it and make other people die sooner than their time. And so this can go really, really badly if Hazel doesn't act right away. And so that's why Merrick gave her this gift, because he wasn't necessarily able to do it. And so now he's working with Hazel to make sure that those who are meant to die now do, to save the others. So as we continue throughout the story, up until Hazel reaches her 18th birthday, she is called upon by the kingdom to come and save the king because he has a very, very intense case of the shivers, which is basically this like really weird illness where gold oil seeps out of your pores. It's really weird. I don't even know if it's a real thing or not. I just know that Erin puts so much research in her books, and every single one of them is a fairy tale retelling. And I actually did an independent study studying her work and some of a few other authors that I love, and it's absolutely fascinating to see how she took those grim fairy tales and twisted them into what it is now. And while she's in the kingdom, she will meet Leopold, which she actually met when she was a kid, and so now as an 18-year-old, she meets the prince again, and sparks fly. Of course it does. You need a little sprinkle of romance and fantasy. It's just, it adds to the plot. The ghosty element in here is that Hazel is haunted by the souls of the people she's killed. And what's very unfortunate in this case is that Hazel has had to kill, most of the people she's had to kill were people that she was close to. So it's absolutely horrifying, it's heart-wrenching, it's terrible, but that's kind of like the ghost element in here. Plus, this is, like I said, this is a gothic, so I feel like it was very fitting. Plus, if I might add another little reason to invest in the physical copy, isn't it stunning? Absolutely beautiful. How can you miss this opportunity? I don't usually like hardcovers, but the hardcovers of Erin's books, they're like these smaller, chunkier ones, and the gold foil, oh my god, it's worth every last penny. I love it so much. So from where I am right now, I'm on page 372 of like 495, I think, and I'm positively in love with this. This is exactly the kind of book that I enjoy. As with all of these books, even if I loved them, even if I had a fun time reading them, it does not guarantee that you will, and that's the fun thing about reading. No book is for everyone. I say this in almost every single one of my videos. I am a very, very strong advocate for no book is for everyone. It's not guaranteed that my book recs will always resonate with you, and it's also not guaranteed that the book recs I see of other creators are gonna resonate with me. But in any case, that was the last ghoulish book rec that I had for you today. As I mentioned earlier on, I don't know why I haven't read more ghost-y books until now, so if you have any that you would like to share with me, please, 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 please put them in the comments, because I need to build myself a ghost TBR, because honestly, they are so fun to read. I had a wonderful time with every single one of these, and I love how versatile they were, how we had really mean ghosts and dangerous ghosts, how we had nice ones, how we had flirty and cocky ones, and how we had positively heart-wrenching ghosts. So share your recs with me and with anyone else who would like to take a look, and I will add them to my list. And if you do see yourself wanting to watch more Rainy Days Library content, whether that be my book content, life, studying, cooking, whatever I'm posting. Basically, if you just want a subscription to my digital diary, I would love for you to join the Little Raindrops family by subscribing. It does really mean a lot, and it genuinely does make a big difference. So if you're interested, you know where to find the button. I don't need to tell you where it is. I'm gonna wrap things up here, and I will look forward to seeing your ghoulish book recommendations in the comments. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Thank you for subscribing if you chose to do so. And I hope your next book is the best you've ever read.